episode 82 of How I Make Music, featuring Ben Valdmets, composer behind a new upcoming dark Texas mystery horror, supernatural horror type show called Grimwell County. What I'm doing at the moment, as you can see on the screen here, I've got this long pink voiceover file. Let's hear how that sounds.
Character on a science fiction podcast.
Okay, I've got it going at a little faster rate, almost twice as fast as it normally goes, just because that speeds up my editing process. First step is clean up the audio, which I've done. I've run it through RX and denoised it. And now what I'm doing is I'm separating the usable from the unusable parts. So I'm going to go through this pink file and basically just chop out all the stuff I want. There is a script, which looks something like that we go down. It's on a different screen, so you can't see that. And yeah, basically I'm just looking for good sound bites, good quality, audio which suits the show. Audio which suits the feel of the show. Yeah, here we go.
Was Captain Landers, who
Okay. Made a note to include
a pivotal character on a science fiction podcast.
He's
cool. I always enjoy it. So I had just this basic idea for a melody when I sat down.
Okay, I've got an idea here. He said he whistles the melody, so I'm going to say whistle melody. Oops. That gives me a reminder to insert a clip there, and then we'll move on to the next region. Here we go.
Yes, I am. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. I'm not sure what this is.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Okay, I can tell that's all not usable because it's all low. The amplitude is much lower. That's what tells me that what he's talking about is kind of in between stuff. So I don't have to always listen to the entire thing. I can actually just find the good stuff by skipping.
This piece, Riders in the Night, is meant to be kind of a modern spin on a classic Ennio Morricone sound. It certainly starts with more of this dry cinematic Western aesthetic, and then
now we're into the influences section. He's talking about Ennio Morricone, so I'm going to add a region called influences. In fact, let's just separate it out to Morricone, the first of the three influences he mentions. And what I'm going to have to do at that point is insert a Morricone soundtrack. So I'll have to go grab that off YouTube or whatever. Cool. Then he talks about Morricone.
Spin on a classic Ennio Morricone sound. It certainly starts with more of this dry cinematic Western aesthetic, and then quickly jumps off the deep end into something more modern synthesizers, sort of like a funky feel, almost like a Quentin Tarantino movie intro.
Yeah, that's good. So we'll have playback in that empty space and that empty space. So I'll leave gaps for the music playback.
Yeah, certainly. Yes.
Okay, let's
exactly.
Skip ahead here.
And so you want me to say something like, take a listen to this Ennio Morricone track while it's... Or do you want me to just say...
Okay,
Yeah, go ahead.
skip all that. Cool. Oh, the mouse clicking is a bit annoying. Anyway, not much I can do about it.
Sure. So I'll just start rambling and you let me know if I should adjust. Okay, good. So, yeah, some of the key influences on this sound, of course, first and foremost would be Ennio Morricone, sort of the king of spaghetti westerns, in my opinion. Everything that you're hearing right now is lifted from his repertoire, right? These sort of dark minor chord kind of strings, this Latin.
Okay, let's see what we can get you
Dark minor chord kind of strings, this Latin percussion castanets, this sort of vague, faraway vocal idea.
Lip smack there. Take that out, that little click sound.
Percussion castanets, this sort of vague, faraway vocal idea of kind of punchy, non-verbal cues that come in, as well as these just sustained.
All right, he's actually mentioned something here.
Everything that you're hearing right now is lifted from his repertoire, right?
So he unfortunately took the wrong cue from me. He thought that I wanted him to talk about his composition when actually I wanted him to point out the Ennio Morricone sort of trademark sounds. So what I'll do for this section where he's talking about his own...
kind of punchy, non-verbal cues that come in, as well as these just sustained, once again, non-verbal harmonies. I like all of that. It's sort of universal. There's not any words that you have to worry about. It's just sort of the human voice. And it's something that he does all the time. Of course, when we get into this section, where it completely changes in feel, harmonically it's still kind of similar. Tempo doesn't change. But obviously we add in drums, we add in
I'm not sure what to do.
guns everywhere. That's kind of the idea that I'm pursuing here. The melody...
I'm not quite sure what he's what to do with this. So I'm just going to put it back there. And then put a kind of a question mark here going, all right, stem breakdown. So I could use that as an opportunity to do to play back the separate stems as he's talking about them, like the voice and the strings or whatever. Let's see what's next.
Yeah, exactly. Like very kind of compressed drums. This drum fill that I just can't get away from. A lot of people know it from the Mad Men theme, actually, this thing. I don't really know what to describe it. I call that like a New Orleans drum fill almost.
Cool.
That I think is really cool and sets up everything.
All right, that's cool. So that actually fits in nicely with the stem breakdown. So it looks like we've got enough material now to turn this into a region that I'm going to call stem breakdown, which means I can delete this marker, and when I'm ready, as I go, I'll just add, please go away. How do you do it? Remove, alt click. I did that. Okay, so as I go, I'll add stem breakdown ideas to that region. But for now, we're still separating the usable from the non-usable. So let's keep going. Morricone.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of offbeat. Yeah, exactly. It's that old school kind of R&B feel. Not very cowboy, but I think in my mind, the whole show is there's this opportunity stylistically for playing with some anachronism, playing thing. I don't really know what to describe it. I call that like a New Orleans. So I think when the melody returns, when the melody that was initially the whistle, it returns as the trumpet. And I tried it with just dry trumpet and immediately just started playing with it. I knew I was going to go off the deep end stylistically. Recently I played a game called Disco Elysium, it's almost less like a video game.
Okay, so now he's on to the second influence, which is Disco Elysium. So let us change this, turn this into a new region called Disco Elysium, or just Disco, and now we are here, I believe. Dry trumpet.
Yeah, exactly, like very kind of compressed drums, this drum fill that I just can't. Yeah, exactly. Sort of offbeat. Yeah, exactly. It's that old school kind of R&B feel. So I think when the melody returns, when the
all right, so now he's talking about Disco Elysium.
Yeah, so I think when the melody returns, when the melody that was initially the whistle, it returns as the trumpet. And I tried it with just dry trumpet and immediately just started playing with it. I knew I was going to go off the deep end stylistically. Recently I played a game called just dry trumpet and immediately just started playing with it. I knew I was going to go off the deep end stylistically. Recently I played a game called Disco Elysium, it's almost less...
Disco Elysium.
Have it full of reverb with echo, and as you're walking around in this world, there's one of the ambient pieces is a very stark, just sort of lone trumpet to start, but they have it full of reverb with echo. It sounds very cool. It's like lonely, but they have it full of reverb.
Okay, we want to separate that out.
Just sort of lone trumpet to start.
The lone trumpet to start. So he mentions lone trumpet. Let's change that to lone trumpet. So what I'm looking for here is one of the soundtracks from Disco Elysium featuring a lone trumpet. I think I have the info that he sent in our chat, so I'll look that up. So I'm going to just make a note. I've got this thing over here. All the red stuff is stuff that I've got to chase him about, ask him for. Yeah, so there we go. Cool. He's actually already done what I asked him to. Check the email. He's got some references for me there, so that's cool. So it's basically just hunting down, the relevant audio clips, either from the contributor or from, YouTube or whatever. And then finding appropriate moments to fill these gaps so that it's not just an info dump of like a contributor talking in a monologue. It's colorful. It sort of breathes, like stops and starts, and has a lot of music and sound effects. That's what we're going for here with this dramatic style of editing.
But they have it full of reverb with echo. It sounds very cool. It's like lonely but psychedelic in a way.
Lonely
so I wanted to take that idea and run with it on my own track. I was inspired. I'd actually kind of played around with that aesthetic before, and I thought that was very weird, and just put it on the shelf. But hearing it again,
that's cool. Got that.
Yeah, exactly. I had to go digging because about 4.5 hours of music for that game.
Okay,
yeah.
Not necessary, and we're going to zip that up there.
Yeah, do you want me to just kind of dry this up and just spit these lines and we can...
I like it. Spit these lines.
Yeah. I think overall my approach is a little bit firing from the hip. I'm not very disciplined when I'm making music, so I am very much of the DIY aesthetic. I just kind of show up, start recording things, and I want to get something down quickly. So I knew that I wanted this sort of like jangly spur sound, just like on the beat, sort of an auxiliary percussion. I had car keys in my pocket. I'd done that before on some tracks, so I think it doesn't quite sound like real cowboy stuff, spurs or whatever I had in my head. But
okay. Here he mentions the car keys, which is one of the stems that he's included, and I'll come back to that. In fact, let's just do that now for the sake of... where are the car keys? Was it under percussion? I think it was under percussion. Oh wait, okay, so I've got all of the stems here all synced up. And let's just see if I can find some labels here. All of you guys must turn on, please. I think it's percussion.
I wanted this sort of like jangly spur sound, just like I am very much of the DIY.
Now you can hear there's a low cut filter on here. Sorry, a high cut, low pass filter. I always get this two mixed up.
Alvarez, who created Star Called, a show where I do one of the voices. I voice Captain Landers.
All right.
A pivotal character.
Car keys. Looking for car keys.
When I'm making music, very much of the DIY aesthetic. So I knew that I wanted this sort of like spur sound, just like on the beat, sort of an auxiliary.
So he has included the car keys separately. He has included the car keys, but they're unfortunately within the percussion stem. So now I'm going to have to go back to him and ask him if he can please, yeah, this is going to be car keys. I need this separate stem for car keys. Okay, good. Speaking to myself as usual.
So I knew that I wanted this sort of like jangly spur sound, just like on the beat, sort of an auxiliary percussion. I had car keys in my pocket.
Car keys. I had car keys in my pocket. I love
This sort of like jangly spur sound, just like on the beat, sort of an auxiliary percussion.
Okay.
I think a lot of the rough edges on this track kind of make it what it is.
Yeah, good. All right. So car keys and no need to polish everything all the time. That's the point there. Moving on. Yep, that's not what we want. What we're going to doing here is moving this to the nether regions so that it doesn't annoy me again. On to the next. Here we go.
Yes. Exactly.
Yes.
That like field recording idea of just like picking up sounds in the world and using them. Yep.
Cool. That fits into car keys. And next.
For me, I was just going to say like there's something almost treasonous or scary to me about using something from a sample pack that sounds like very realistic acoustic instruments, like counterfeiting or something. I'd rather have something that doesn't sound as good, but
okay, I like this point, which is sort of not anti-sample, but pro field, pro DIY. That's kind of what I'm looking for. The DIY approach. I think he's mentioned that once or twice. We'll create a region for it. I'm sure there'll be one or two other clips which fit into that as a sort of a palette cleanser between one of the moments and another. We can have a dry moment where there's no audio, where there's no music playback, and just kind of cool. There we go.
Yeah. So for the trumpet, actually everything on this track is me. I'm a DIYer. Even the sort of feminine sounding voices, trumpet, guitars, everything is me, or it's something I sequence. I studied trumpet in school, but I don't play so much now. Like I mentioned before, I knew that I just wanted to reflect the melody from the whistling. It's in a range for the trumpet that the key is pretty low, so it's not like a high bright trumpet. It's naturally sort of dark. But I listened back to it a couple times and I thought, I like the darkness, but I want to add thickness to it. Sorry, my cat is trying to like take down this acoustic shield.
There's a cat.
I like the darkness, but I want to add thickness to it. Sorry, my cat is trying to like take.
That's right.
So I ended up just going crazy, putting effects on it. I did dial it back. At the end of the day, it's got a chorus effect on it, and it's got a delay that I commonly use, which is a software delay, but it's tracks to the beat, right? So when you hear it kind of recapitulate, it is happening a few times on each beat, so it doesn't distract from the rhythm. Exactly. Yeah, the trumpet delay is in sync with the rest of the tempo. When you hear it kind of recapitulate, which is a software delay, but it's tracks to the beat, right? So when you hear it kind of recapitulate, it is happening a few times on each beat. So
tempo. So this is a moment where we play back the trumpet stem. Okay, fine. Next.
These plays as intro music, generally after a cold open to the show. So the characters have already engaged in some kind of situation for a couple minutes, and then we launch into the intro. It's meant to give the listener strong cinematic vibes. If you close your eyes, maybe you can visualize, not only just the characters and the situation, but the style too. There's probably, text splashing across the screen, and you can sort of hear the style in the sound.
Okay, that's going to work quite well. I'm going to cut that and stick it up in About Audio Drama. So let's do our little fancy trick of shifting all the audio that way and sticking it in. Oh, whistle melody. Oh, yes, yeah, that's right. I wanted him to include the whistle melody there. This goes in here. Good.
It's meant to give the listener strong cinematic vibes. If you close your eyes.
Strong cinematic vibes. Okay, moving on.
He is, in my opinion, he's like a genius at this stuff, and I think taking a fresh slate to it. Oh, I am too. He is, in my opinion, he's like a genius at this stuff, and I think taking a fresh slate to it. I think all the test footage he sent me, I think it's awesome. I'm very excited. I'm excited for it to come out. Yeah. I think it's awesome. I'm very excited. I'm excited for it to come out. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm excited for it to come out as a good moment because there's a natural sort of laugh and everything. So we're going to put that here in this section called About AD and move back to the initial voiceover edit.
Yeah, and I guess I touched on this a little bit. I don't really have a very strict methodology. I'm working on being somebody that sits down and has a block of time, a schedule to do it all the time. But the way this track came out, I thought about the idea that Gabe had, and I just immediately went to work. I had the time to do it, and it was like chasing the lightning bolt that I saw right then and there. So, like I mentioned, all I really had to start with...
I like chasing the lightning bolt, but not the preamble.
Yeah, and I guess I touched on this a little bit. I don't really have a very strict methodology. I'm working on being somebody that sits down and has a block of time, chasing the lightning bolt, and it was like chasing the lightning bolt that I saw. It was like chasing the lightning bolt that I saw right then and there. So, like I mentioned, all I really had to start was that melody, and I guess I vaguely knew the harmonic structure I wanted to put on. I don't really have a very strict methodology. I'm I'm working on being somebody that sits down and has a block.
Okay, I don't have a strict methodology. All I
Like I mentioned, all I really had to start was that melody,
was the melody.
and I guess I vaguely knew the harmonic structure I wanted to put under it. So it just sort of almost wrote itself because I thought, okay, I've got this melody, I'm whistling it, I'm just going to try to do this spaghetti western sound, and I was able to just draw on all of these existing instrumentations and sounds that I knew would fit. So immediately get some synthesized strings in there that are doing this sort of shaky tremolo sound on these dark chords, the Latin percussion, and then just some sort of disembodied voices. That's really all there is to start this track.
Okay,
Once I got kind of...
That's good because that's the stem breakdown. So now all of this goes into stem breakdown. So what I'm doing is I'm creating regions as I go and then hacking up the audio, because interview subjects tend to like jump around even if you've got a script. You don't want to be like, stop, we're not saying that now. You want to let them finish what they're saying so you get the natural speech, but then that might be out of order. So it's important, like, well, the way I do it is, I create regions based on what they're saying, and then as I edit through, I find, I find little clips of audio that are appropriate for one or another region, and I stick them in there until we get to the end. And then once you've gotten through to the end of your voiceover file, what you want to do then is we'll start working on the order and the transitions of these moments so that there's a smooth kind of flow between them, and you want to plug the gaps between them with the music and the sound effects and whatever. That's how I do it. Here we go.
Once I got kind of bored with that aesthetic, I thought, I just sort of jumped ahead probably 10 measures in the DAW and said, okay, I'm going to keep the key, I'm going to keep the tempo. Let me try to just take this harmonic concept and do it completely stylistically different. Yeah, that's when I got out the trumpet, I got out the guitars and bass, and wrote this sort of groovy drum track to go with it.
Cool.
And I thought, well, that sounded good too. They both sound good, they're very different. So then the real work was stitching them together. So this sort of, the more classic cinematic track grows and grows until we hit this apex. And then instead of staying that, the more classic cinematic track grows and grows.
Okay, so we've got 3 points here. This is what I'm going to call the drop moment. I'm going to add a region called the track drop moment, meaning that we're going to play back what he's talking about at that moment. The sort of two different elements of this track, the cinematic sound and then the Quentin Tarantino sort of vibey, funky sound. Cool, so that suits that.
Yeah, exactly. Stuff that a cowboy would be shocked to hear in arpeggiated synthesizer. But yeah, that's supposed to give you this. You're supposed to hear that and immediately be thinking like grainy film quality, like, I don't want to say cheesy, but maybe over-the-top cowboy action, blood, 6-shooters, bullets whizzing everywhere, horses going crazy, things like that you could get, I think, from that classic spaghetti western aesthetic, but it wouldn't be painted the right way. It wouldn't be going through the right visual filter.
Okay, I think I know what he's meaning. What he means here is...
This track also includes a lot of instruments that you might not expect to hear.
Yeah, there we go. So what we've got a new region now, which is the fact that we've got arpeggiators and synthesizers in this classic track, which are quite anachronistic. So electronic instruments. Good. So stuff you would know, cowboy. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, there were some challenges. I showed the initial version of it to Gabe. He liked it and didn't really ask for a lot of changes. For the sake of the show, most of the time, it will be a truncated version of this, like you might see on regular television back in the day. Maybe there's a 2-minute intro, but they can play 30 seconds of it. So I needed to come up with ways to kind of doctor the existing track.
Why is this region not labeling? Boom. Track drop. Tack drop. There we go. Track drop. Electronic instruments.
And didn't really ask for a lot of changes.
This is challenges.
For the sake of the show, most of the time, it will be a truncated version of this, like you might see on regular television back in the day. Maybe there's a 2-minute intro, but they can play 30 seconds of it. So I needed to come up with ways to kind of doctor the existing track to drop some time on it. Revising, like I mentioned, the creation of the track, that first 80% was really easy, fluid, all kind of in the flow. And polishing becomes very difficult. I tried remiking and redoing some parts, and I took it back to Gabe, the show's creator, and he said, I liked the old one better, which is kind of a testament. I actually love hearing that. I'm speaking on a nice AKG microphone. I had originally done the whistling on a Shure 57, not even a vocal mic. I mean, I guess it could be a vocal mic, but I think of it. Yeah, I think of it as like a stage mic or maybe an instrument mic. And so that's the one that we went with. Something about it, it just worked better. So I tend to put a lot of trust into just did it work or not, rather than we played that one. That take was on the $100 guitar, and the other take was on the $2,000 guitar. I mean, just go with what sounds better. Yeah.
There we go. I love that point. Some of the challenges.
The initial version of it to Gabe, he liked it and didn't really ask for a lot of changes.
And then we've got this.
I liked the old one better, which is kind of
I took it to him.
And I took it back to Gabe, the show's creator, and he said, easy, fluid, all kind of in flow. And polishing becomes very difficult. I tried remiking and redoing some parts, and it becomes very difficult. I tried remiking.
The
one that we gave. He liked it and didn't really ask for a lot of changes. Very cool. I tried remiking and redoing some parts, and I took it back to Gabe, the show's creator, and he said, I liked the old one better, which is kind of a test. I tend to put a lot of trust into just, did it work or not, rather than we played that one. That take was
Good, that's good. Those three over there, it's not actually challenges. The point that he's trying to make here is trust the sound rather than the gear. So it's mostly about trusting the sound and not really about the price or the cost of the gear that you use to make the sound. Cool.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's a nice little laugh, but I don't know what...
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So for laugh moments and natural moments like that, I generally just have a track here called extras and I chuck them up there. Sometimes they come in useful to close off a point, just a little chuckle or whatever.
Yeah, so the track, to me, if we had only kept it in that spaghetti western aesthetic, it would have been very straightforward. Maybe it could have worked. But because the nature of the show is meant to have this sort of style component, I wanted to move beyond those typical tropes and push it into some weirder direction.
I wanted to move beyond.
I wanted to move beyond those typical tropes and push it into some weirder direction.
I think that works just as a one-liner for the end of electronic instruments. So that's that. Next.
Yeah, so I do leverage a lot of virtual instruments or sequencers. I think the best way to describe this is what I did on the drums. So I can fake it as a drummer in real life. I probably could not play the drum part if I sat down on the drums. If I practiced, maybe I could. And all that is to say, software version of an instrument, that you are sequencing it. I think it's important when using a software version of an instrument that you are sequencing it or giving it MIDI input, however you're composing it, that you're doing it in a way that the instrument could actually be performed live. Mm-hmm. Right? There's a danger that if you haven't done your homework and you don't really know what would be going through a drummer's head at all, you might write a drum part on an acoustic drum software kit. The actual sounds sound fine, but the nature of what's happening, even a listener that doesn't know anything about drums is going to hear that and think that's too weird. Like you wouldn't hit, these two cymbals at the same time, or like you spawned a third hand somehow. You know what I mean? Like that's an easy thing to accidentally do with a sequencer. So you're right.
Yeah, that's a good point there. Make it believable. That's going to be fun. I'll put together some drum parts there, like a drum loop, which requires a drummer with 3 hands to play, just so you can hear how impossible it is.
Yeah, for this track, I chose to use software drums that mimic the sound of acoustic drums.
For this track, I chose to use software drums which mimic the sound of acoustic drums. Done. Next.
Chasing after different sounds, you're always, messing with where the mics are on the snare and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. I, fortunately, in my house, this is where, Gabe and I play in some bands together. This is where we rehearse, and so I have kind of a permanent place I could mic the drums, but, the old COVID epidemic, we're not practicing much lately, so it's a bit of a wasted space.
Nope. I refuse to use the word COVID in my podcast. This is about escape. So sorry, COVID.
That might have been a typo. I think that's meant to say the chord progression is a revised version of the original sketch.
Okay, never mind.
Oh, got it. Yeah, there is something, I was thinking about.
Almost done.
When I was exporting the stems, I was thinking about the harmonic theory. I didn't finish university with a degree in music, but I started one, so I have some music theory background and stuff. And the chord progression in a minor key, I don't know if your listeners, like a 2-5-1 is a very common chord progression, right? And I realized I have a flat 2-5-1, which in classical music theory I think they call a Sicilian flat 2, and I thought Sicilian, that's where they filmed all the spaghetti westerns. I did that subconsciously, anyways.
So that's a great point. Music theory tends to scare people off a bit, but he's made it a little bit simple, a little bit brief, and ends with a bit of a joke. The fact that the name of this chord progression is Sicilian flat 2-5-1 or Sicilian 2-5-1, and then you've got the connection between the spaghetti western, the Italians, and Sicily. So that's a moment worth including. And also that gives me a chance to play some piano on the track. I'm always looking for excuses to look up what exactly a Sicilian 2-5-1 is. I did. This happens all the time. Like I forget the most basic keyboard shortcuts that I'll do something like 50 times and then I'll forget how to do it. Okay, this is called the Sicilian. And then I know what to do there, so I don't have to add that. Cool. Almost done.
This next section, I think...
Why is this laughing?
That's pretty funny.
That's pretty funny?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty excellent.
Yeah, that's pretty excellent. Cool, thanks.
Yeah.
Man.
This next section, I think the rest of this is actually like this outboard pedals. I think that was the example. That was like the template thing. I wasn't sure what to put there, so I just didn't delete that. So I actually did not do that.
So that's not there.
Captain Landris, I think he's just sort of... he's my weak impression at Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Enterprise.
So he was doing an impression of Jean-Luc. There we go.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because I don't have a ton of material that's like on this kind of genre, anything. Yeah, I've got a SoundCloud. Yeah.
Cool. Moving forward.
That's about it for this week's episode.
And
we'll listen
the
to the
outro. Cool. So we're at the end now.
It's Riders in the Night.
Okay. So there we go. Outro. What is the...
An Ennio Morricone fever dream in its entirety.
That's cool.
I think I said Patreon. I'll just redo that whole line. How's that sound? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we had trouble with Patreon.
Patreon. Check out what's on offer at patreon.com/howimakemusic.
Okay,
How I Make Music.
that's fine. It's just...
So, Check out what's on offer at
Yeah,
patreon.com.
look at that. I dropped the needle in exactly the right place. That is called the reading the waveform, my friends.
To this episode. Check out what's on offer at patreon.
No, I don't like the little so let's chuck it there.
Related to this episode. Check out what's on offer at patreon.com.
Yep. Sorry. Check out.
Check out what's on offer at
That's
Patreon.
better. Cool.
Check out what's on offer at patreon.com.
Ben Valdmets, you are kicking ass. This was one of my favorite chats to do. The dude just got it. We were done in like 40 minutes.
Here, take a listen.
I
Take a
was really stoked to chat to him. He's got a good voice. He knows what he's talking about. Doesn't think too much of himself.
Here's the outro that also. What am I saying about this?
Good point. Here we go.
While I've got you, I want to show the outro piece for this show. It's a bit of that same sludgy psychedelic aesthetic.
Oh yes, we included a second music piece.
Yeah, the outro is called Devil Horse. So once again, a little bit cowboy oriented.
Cool.
This outro piece is called Devil Horse. You want me to say a little bit about it too?
Mm.
But the whole big thing about relating it back to the intro. And while you're here, I wrote this other piece of music called Devil Horse that's used as the outro. It's meant to have the same kind of stylistic components, sort of a sinister take on this psychedelic cowboy vibe.
Mm.
No, I don't think so.
Cool, that is it. And then it's like...
No, I don't think so.
So we're going to do...
Yeah, I think...
Sorry, Ben. Just give me a sec here, bro. I want to shift that up and shift that up and then get a outro. It's called Devil Horse. Devil Horse was just the second composition that he
the outro
wrote,
piece for this show.
which I suggested we include. Here we go.
Now, while I've got you, I want to show the outro piece for this show. It's a bit of that same... And while you're here, I wrote this other piece of music called Devil Horse that's used as the outro.
Cool. While you're here and listening to this in your car.
Yeah, the outro is called Devil Horse. So once
Okay,
again...
done. What's this?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, done.
That's what was making me nervous because every time I've heard the episodes of your show, I'm like, oh, this is very smooth. It's like robust. There's always stuff going on in the background. I'm like, do I have enough material? So all that is to say, if the outro, feel free to scrap the outro. I just included that.
That's
Awesome.
cool.
And I can upload my raw audio here, and I guess just let me know if you want me to punch any lines or circle back. Yeah, pleasure's all mine. I think what you're doing is awesome, and I'm just... Yeah, I asked him, since that was one of your questions. He's still recording parts. He's hoping to have it out by the end of the month, but I don't think we have a hard release date yet.
Cool. That's it, man. And what is this again? Oh, yeah. Those are the take a listens. So I'm going to chuck that up there. Okay, good. And these?
Yeah, the outro is called Devil Horse. So once again,
We've done that.
the whole big thing about relating it back to the intro,
We've done that.
this outro piece is called Devil Horse.
Okay, we've done that. Cool. So that's it. Right on. So that is most of the upfront work, which is required to separate the usable from the non-usable vocal audio. Now comes the fun stuff. Now is where we get to look at all these markers I've made along the way and look at what needs to be inserted, like transitions and stuff. First thing I'm going to do is order this stuff in a way that makes sense. So we've got regions, intro, about the AD, the audio drama, and then we've got two influences. Then we've got this moment about a car keys, which is a really small moment, and it also kind of stem breakdown. That's what I wanted to do. So car keys is kind of included in stem breakdown. So I'm going to stick it after stem breakdown. Good. That means that after the influences, the disco, he goes to DIY approach, trumpet. The track drop moment, the trumpet is also part of stem breakdown. Let's see if we can... Let's put that there. Sicilian moment. We put the music theory at the end. Devil Horse we can put right at the end too. Make it believable goes there. See, I'm just reordering stuff, coming up with ideas and how it flows. Probably going to change it all as we go. Okay.
Track to go with it.
Let's take it from the top and just check this out. Yay, some music. Good.
Thanks for listening.
So listen to this. This is just a fun playback moment. This is the idea for the intro section. Normal speed.
I'm a composer, musician. I'm a composer.
Come down and please, and then also turn the vocal effects on.
I'm a composer, musician, and voice actor from Austin, Texas, and this is how I make music.
Comes this warped moment.
Welcome back to How I Make Music, episode number 82, Writers in the Night by me, Ben Valdmets. Thanks for listening in.
Cool.
To whom God may yet live.
And then there's the audio drama clip.
This audio drama is called Grimwell County. It's a story about a bounty hunter and a vigilante who get roped into hunting supernatural threats in the old American West.
Okay, I'll synchronize the...
I wrote the intro and out.
I'll synchronize this stuff later when it's fine-tuned. But yeah, I wrote the intro.
I wrote the intro and outro to this show. I work with Gabe Alvarez, who created Star Called, a show where I do one of the voices. I voice Captain Landris, who
Okay, so at this point I'm going to add a little clip about
Captain Landris, who
Captain Landris.
Landris,
We'll add the Captain Landris clip there.
a pivotal character on a science fiction podcast that he's created as well. And kind of with his new idea, this Grimwell County concept, sort of X-Files meets Cowboys.
That's about the audio drama.
He's the coolest.
Cool. And let's close it off with Gabe. What's this?
I always have enjoyed that kind of spaghetti western sound. And what he was describing sounds in the old American West.
West.
Star Called, a show where I do one of the voices. I voice Captain Landris.
Okay, Captain Landris. I don't know about he's the coolest. I don't know where to put that.
I always have enjoyed that kind of spaghetti western sound. And what he was describing sounded like that would fit, but it also needed kind of another angle. So I had just this basic idea for a melody when I sat down. I thought I'd whistle it into a microphone and see.
Okay, I've always enjoyed that spaghetti western sound. At this point, we actually want to... what are we going to do here? We've got potential to transition from him talking about Grimwell to talking about Morricone. So
Strong cinematic vibes. If you close your eyes, maybe you can visualize
there we go, yeah.
X-Files meets Cowboys.
There we go, strong cinematic vibes.
It's meant to give the listener strong cinematic vibes. If you close your eyes, maybe you can visualize, not only just the characters in the in the Night by me, Ben Valdmets. This audio drama is called Grimwell County. It's a story about a bounty hunter and a vigilante who get roped into hunting supernatural. I wrote the intro and outro to this show.
Okay, so let's move Starcalled back and Captain Landris back, and then go
Roped into hunting supernatural threats in the old American West.
a little bit of the clip, a little bit of audio drama clip,
And kind of with his new idea, this Grimwell County concept, sort of X-Files meets Cowboys.
sort of X-Files.
X-Files meets Cowboys.
Sort of X-Files.
That sort of X-Files meets Cowboys.
That's a good way to put it. Good. All right. And then
It's meant to give the listener strong cinematic vibes. If you close your eyes, maybe you can
visualize,
not only just the characters in the situation,
but the style too. There's
probably, text splashing across the screen, and you can sort of hear the style in the sound.
okay, let's
Not only just the characters in the situation, but the style too. There's probably,
the style too.
but the style too.
Good. And then lastly,
It's awesome. I'm very excited. I'm excited for it to come out. Yeah.
I'm excited for it.
Excited for it to come out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And now we wanna.
Affected by a manner of violence so unnatural as to have shaken me to my core.
Cool.
I wrote the intro and outro to this show. I work with Gabe Alvarez, who created Star Called, a show where I do one of the voices. I voice Captain Landris.
Okay, and then we got Captain Landris over there. Now,
I always have enjoyed that kind of spaghetti western sound. And what he was describing sounded... I had just this basic idea for a melody when I sat down. I thought I'd whistle it into a microphone and see how that sounded. And just kind of took it from there. To this show. I work with Gabe Alvarez, who created... I wrote the intro and outro to this show. I always have enjoyed that kind of spaghetti western sound. And what he was just
okay, so spaghetti
kind of took it from there.
Let's do whistle melody here. Good. This is a bit of a tricky one, but I've got it. Do the whistle melody here, and then he goes out right there, and then he goes to he's the coolest.
He's the coolest.
I'm going to add he's the coolest to extras. We don't...
Alvarez, who created Star Called, a show where I do one of the voices. I voice Captain Landris. Gabe Alvarez, who created Star Called, a show where I do one.
Okay, the grammar doesn't allow me to insert it there, so that's fine. Good. So now we're going to go on to...
microphone and see how that sounded. And just kind of took it from there. Spin on a classic Ennio Morricone sound.
Okay, what are we doing here?
This piece, Riders in the Night, is meant to be kind of a modern spin on a classic Ennio Morricone sound. Is meant to be kind of a modern spin on a classic Ennio Morricone. This piece, Riders in the Night, is meant to be kind of a modern spin on a classic Ennio Morricone sound.
Ennio Morricone sound, easy. Chuck that in there.
It certainly starts with more of this dry. I wrote the intro and outro to this show. I always have enjoyed that kind of spaghetti western sound. And what he was describing sounded... I had just this basic idea for a melody when I sat down.
Okay, this basic idea for a melody actually belongs in the stem breakdown section. So I'm going to stick it in there. We'll figure out how that goes, which means that whistle can also get moved there. This is whistle, huh? Yeah. Whistle goes to stem breakdown. Now I've got an idea of how to do that later. Cool. It's too early to get straight into it. First we want to do influences and wow the listener early with high production value.
More of this dry cinematic Western aesthetic.
That's fine. Next, Disco Elysium, which I'll add later.
Yeah, so I think when the melody returns, when the melody that was initially the whistle, it returns as the trumpet. And I tried it with just dry trumpet and immediately just started playing with it. I knew I was going to go off the deep end stylistically. Recently I played a game called Disco Elysium, it's almost
I tried it with just dry trumpet.
just dry trumpet and immediately just started playing with it. I knew I was going to go off the deep end stylistically. Recently I played a game called Disco Elysium, it's almost less like a video game and more like a choose your own adventure book or something. It's a lot of reading. It's all about this world building.
Okay, I think we actually just go straight into Disco Elysium.
Recently I played a game called Disco Elysium, it's almost less like a video game and more like a choose your own adventure book or something. It's a lot of reading. It's all about this world building. And as you're walking around in this world, there's one of the ambient pieces is a very stark, just sort of lone trumpet to start. They have it full of reverb with echo. It sounds very cool. It's lonely but psychedelic in a way. So I wanted to take that idea and run with it on my own track. I was inspired. I'd actually kind of played around with that aesthetic before, and I thought that was very weird and just put it on the shelf. But hearing it again in a game somebody else did, I was like, yeah, there's something to that. And so it kind of went
cool.
But hearing it again,
there we go. So that's his point. I listened to Disco Elysium and I got the idea in my head. And yeah, so now what we want is
in a game somebody else did, I was like, yeah, there's something to that. And so it kind of went back to it.
no.
But they have it full of reverb with echo. It sounds very cool. It's like lonely but psychedelic in a way. So like lonely but psychedelic in a way.
I've already got that there.
Just sort of lone trumpet to start, but they have it full of reverb with echo. It sounds very cool. It's like lonely but psychedelic in a way. Just sort of lone trumpet to start. But
lone trumpet to start, cool.
Hearing it again in a game somebody else did, I was like, yeah, there's something to that. And so it kind of went back to it. But they have it full of reverb with echo. It sounds very cool. It's reverb with echo. It sounds very cool. It's full of reverb with echo. It sounds very cool. It's like lonely but psychedelic in a way. So I wanted to take that idea and run with it on my own track. I was inspired. I'd actually kind of played around with that aesthetic before, and I thought that was very weird and just put it on the shelf. But hearing it again in a game somebody else did, I was like, yeah, there's something to that. And so kind of.
Okay, there we go. So lone trumpet will add the separate stem for his psychedelic trumpet. I think I actually have it here all queued up. Let's do that. I love Reaper, the way you can link all of these tracks so that they stay in sync, and then all you do is there we go, trumpet. All you do is you solo out the one you want. Check this out.
Hearing it
Oh yeah, that is nice.
in a game that somebody else did, I was like, yeah, there's something to that. And so it kind of went back to it. Ambient pieces is a very stark, just sort of lone trumpet to start.
Okay, but that's first we're going to do Disco Elysium, which I haven't really gotten hold of yet. I don't think he's included it yet. Or has he? No. All right, cool. And then so on and so forth. I'm going to just basically speed up the editing process by signing off now. But you get an idea of how we're doing this. Thanks for stopping by. This has been the editing of episode 82 of How I Make Music, featuring Ben Valdmets of the upcoming fiction podcast, Grimwell County. Sort of this, what did he call it? X-Files meets spaghetti western, or as I described it, Westworld with vampires. Cool. So that's the behind the scenes of the editing, and I'm going to sign off for now. I might do another session later in the week. Thanks for stopping by. I'll catch you guys at howimakemusic.com. Peace out.